In this week's episode of the Deadliest Files, we interview Michael O'Loughlin about his apprehension of joining Sydney, but then getting to play alongside Adam Goodes. Michael O'Loughlin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, mate. It's a pleasure.
Obviously, you're an indigenous fella. Who's your mob and where are you from?
I'm a black fella from South Australia. My mob are Narunga, Nuttingeri and Nagana mob, and obviously grew up in Adelaide City, but get back to communities, my mother's side in particular, for everyone down at Point Piers, hello, who were watching Yokai. They love the show. But importantly, obviously, my father's side, the Nuttingeri mob, down in the Lake Coorong there, and it's a very important part of my makeup, I guess.
Did you always have a strong connection with your culture? Because everyone's on a different journey, but yeah, obviously yours is going to be unique as well.
Yeah, look, it was drummed into me really, really early. We would go back for every school holiday or Christmas break that we got. We went back to Point Piers and our family, we've got a shack there just outside the community, and obviously all my uncles and aunties and cousins all lived on the community, and riding motorbikes, fishing, swimming, jumping off the jetty. It was just brilliant.
I looked up to you when I was a young fella. Who were the guys who you were looking up to running around in the backyard pretending to be?
I remember watching my uncle Wilbur Wilson, who was a legend at the Central Districts Footy Club, watching him play. Gav Wanganeen's from the same neighbourhood as myself, and we went through the same teams. So watching Gav, Gilbert McAdam was another one who was the first Indigenous player to win a Magarey medal, which is the equivalent to the Brownlow.
4 Centrals, wasn't it?
And he was just unbelievable. So these are the guys that I looked up to, and I wanted to play locally. I never thought about the VFL back in those days, and obviously now the AFL. So all I wanted to do was play local top-level football in South Australia.
When did you think you were going to be able to, take that next step and go up to, I guess, the national comp?
To tell you the truth, I never had an idea about the draft and how it worked and how the AFL picked their players. I had no concept of it. And it wasn't until I got to that 16, 17 years of age where I shown a little bit of ability and strung some good games together that there was rumours and conversations happening behind the scenes saying, oh, Mick, there's certain AFL clubs looking at you. And I didn't believe it, to tell you the truth, because I never thought I would be good enough to play at that level. So then when they came around to visit you, it all sort of hits home. They go, okay, wow, these guys have actually been watching me since I was 15 years of age, and they reckon I've got something. But it wasn't until they actually sat down, met Mum and had a cup of tea and spoke to me about my hopes and dreams. And if they had chosen me, would I go and play in these particular states? So that's when I sort of having that little bit of, oh, wow, this would be amazing to be able to accomplish.
Take all the people who are going to watch this into your house when the footy clubs first came in.
We didn't have too many visitors come to our house for a cup of tea, apart from Mob. Yeah. And when they came around, like we're frantically trying to clean the place on the eldest of 6. So you can imagine kids running everywhere, uncles and aunties dropping over. They've heard the rumour that the Swans are going to pop around for a cup of tea. And I'm sitting there just embarrassed. And they asked some questions. They got a feel for my mum, who's just an unbelievable role model for me. And she asked some questions. And again, this concept of moving away from home and contracts and managers was foreign to us. Manager, like they said, have you got a manager? I'm like, what is a manager? Yeah. And my mum and I were using our street smarts and just sort of nodding along with the guys, saying, oh, yeah, we understand that. And we're looking at each other like the black fellas do, going,
side eyes.
What this fella's talking about. But, as you said, you're sitting down trying to have a conversation and younger brothers running around. Someone's kicking a footy and has hit a wall, and oh man,
they're taking notes. Let's fast forward. You've just got to Sydney. I've heard you talk about this before. You hated it when you first got there, but I think your mum basically gave you an ultimatum to stay up there. Wasn't there something not in the home anymore?
I was devastated. I hated the Swans. I didn't want to play for them. They were on the bottom of the ladder, and I said I was a Carlton fan, so. I wanted to play for the Blues, and when my name got read out, I was in tears. She said, don't worry, at least you'll get a game. And it was one of those things where she couldn't pack my bags fast enough. And I found myself in Sydney literally a week or two after that. It was so quick. I remember ringing home every day. I want to come home. And she knew. She goes, mate, you're going to thank me for this, but you're not coming back home. Stay there. Just, work it out and get along and meet people and train really hard and just see what happens. And I said, no, I'm coming home. And she said, well, you can't come home. Your bed's gone. I've given it away to one of your cousins.
You're a black kid, left his black community. You go to the biggest city in Australia, and the importance of you having Kickity there.
Yeah, look, I walked in the door and I remember Derek sitting on the bench and just on the seat in the change room, and he said, I know you. And I'm like, gave him the story, and he goes, oh, that's right. And he actually lived up the road for me when he was playing at Centrals, and got to Sydney. He was there. He almost, I guess, vouched for me, and he introduced me and just asked if I was okay. And those little things really did help. Those early days were tough, but Derek was certainly a rock for me to be able to lean on.
But was that something that you really focused on as a way to help those younger guys as you got help?
It's in our DNA. We look after our elders and we look after our young people. So when Goodsy, Troy Cook, Robbie Matt, Fred Campbell, Dwayne Simpson, these types of players got to Sydney, it was just a natural progression, and we were able to do that really well. And our humour is our strength as well. Like taking the piss out of each other, and I might have been that senior player, but they were great at also challenging me.
You play 300. You're the first blood to play 300 games. What do moments like that mean to you?
Oh, look, they're very, very special. I think more so it's a tribute. And you know what black bowlers are like? It's about our family, our mother, our grandmother and grandfather, the sacrifices and the help that I got along that journey. This was just, I guess, a thank you to say to them, really. To become the first South Melbourne Swans player to do it was huge. I got there at 17. I never thought I'd play 300 games. I thought I'd be there for maybe a year or two, then back in Adelaide playing local footy. And in the back of my mind was always, I'm playing for my community. I'm playing for my mother and my father, my grandparents, my family back home. They're watching, they're waiting. They want me to be successful.
For me, your highlight's got to be 2005 premiership. What does that mean to you with all the work that went into it?
Oh, man. We got close in 96 as a 19-year-old, and we lost to North Melbourne. I actually thought we'd be back there the next year and a year after and a year after and a year. We didn't get back there for 10 years or so. It's so bloody hard to win a premiership. And guys who won, the Chris Johnsons of the world and Darryl White.
Yeah, those freaks.
These guys are just unbelievable. If you think about the South Melbourne Swans, we've had the most Brownlow medalists in the history of the VFL, AFL. So we've had the best players, but we've only won 5 premierships.
Yeah.
So that tells you a lot about how difficult they are to win. Great players can't transition into a great team to win a premiership. And so to be part of that, and the first one in Sydney, and after 70-odd years, doesn't get much better to be able to contribute a little bit to that and the culture so that we can sustain success after I'm gone. And it's like, when we're back in country, you leave the place better than what you found it. You look after it, and it will look after you. And that's how I feel about the Swans Footy Club.
It's really hard to think about questions that I want to ask you without thinking about Goodsy. Do you think your careers are inextricably linked and you can't mention one without the other?
Nah, look, we're in each other's shadows. I'm in his shadow more than anything, but it's quite...
Don't tell him that.
I watched this kid grow from a 17-year-old, no idea what he was doing, to the player we all know and the person we all know today. And, his first game, we shared my 250th and his 200th. He's been at, my godfather and my kids. We've won a premiership together. We have the Go Foundation together. He was at my wedding. I was at his wedding. It's crazy.
Of the current crop of Indigenous players, who are your favourites to watch?
Oh, man, there's so many of them. Obviously, Bud, I get to see him every week at Sydney, and I just think he's going to be probably, him and Adam are the two best, with Andy McLeod and Gav Wanganeen I've ever seen in my top 4. But I love watching Michael Walters play. I just think he's so classy and smooth, and his decision-making is just incredible. Cyril, when he was up and running, was just excitement. An excitement machine. Sean Burgoyne. The list goes on. Like, the list certainly goes on. But watching these, they've all got different attributes, right? So I love watching bits and pieces of every single one of them.
The AFL community's voted you in the best 16 Aboriginal players ever, or the deadliest players. What does that mean to you when you hear these kind of accolades come your way?
Man, all those guys, a lot of those guys that have been voted in that deadliest 16, I had on my wall, and posters of these guys, and then to be alongside them, to be accepted into the Indigenous Team of the Century as a player, along with Goodsy, was the highlight for both of us. It's humbling. It's great for the mob to do what they do and have a look at it. Yeah, extremely proud and happy to be a part of that.
Brother, congratulations again on being part of the deadliest. You're a champ.
I appreciate it, mate, and well done. I love the show. You're doing a great job. Well done.
Don't forget to tune in to Yocker Footy at 8 p.m. Wednesdays on NRTV and the AFL Network.